Hi, this is Abul Hussain coming to you direct from London, the United Kingdom, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we discuss how you can start or scale your digital marketing agency. And if you are watching this episode outside of our Facebook group, go to smmamastermind.com or find a link above or below this video. Now, with that out of the way, I have a very special guest joining me all the way from California. His name is Brian Hansen, and we are going to talk about his journey from going from a large agency to founding 𝗘𝗺𝗽𝗆 and a fully integrated digital marketing agency. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate your time. And, you know, I'd love to obviously cover your journey and your story, and I'm sure our viewers would love to hear from you too. So for the people who might not have come across you yet, how about a little bit of an introduction? How did you get into the digital marketing space?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to walk you through the journey. So before 𝗘𝗺𝗽𝗆, I worked for a large digital marketing agency called Reach Local, who has since been acquired by Gannett, which is, a conglomerate that I think actually there's another parent company in there. So yeah, it was essentially an outside sales rep. It's a unique role there. So you do a little bit of account management. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and founders in my space have a similar story, where we were kind of exposed to things that we didn't really like, right? So kind of this mistreatment or this abuse, this lack of transparency to the SMB community. And for me, like, my principal inspiration for leaving and launching 𝗘𝗺𝗽𝗆 was really simple. I just knew that SMBs deserved more. And I wanted to start a company that was founded on just like old school principles, right? Of being honest, having integrity, having transparency, best in class reporting, and bring a level of expertise that a company would normally need to hire like a premium, consulting agency, but bring it to them at affordable price point. So yeah, that's kind of the background. And I just, made the jump and launched the company, and hard to believe it's been 4 years now.
Absolutely awesome. You mentioned Reach Local, which used to exist in the UK as well. However, it actually went bust a couple of years ago, and I believe they had a couple of pending lawsuits against them for mis-selling, as is common in the large agency world, as you can imagine, where people have a lot of sales targets to hit. So in terms of building 𝗘𝗺𝗽𝗆, because I keep on saying 𝗘𝗺𝗽𝗆, over the last kind of 4 years, what services are you providing for your clients?
Okay, so Service Offering is a comprehensive SEO product. And I state it that way because, a lot of agencies, they'll focus just on local or just on content. So our product incorporates local SEO, technical, on-page, speed, a conversion rate optimization component, the production of content, and then custom blogger outreach to acquire new links. And then on the paid media side, it's Google Ads management, Microsoft Ads management, and paid campaigns on Facebook.
Right. So in terms of, so you've obviously are a bit of a one-stop shop for your clients, I suppose. In terms of the kind of the ratio of services that you provide, are you more focused on the SEO side of things, or are you more heavier on paid media?
So that's a good question. And when we first started, the goal was SEO. So we kind of started as an SEO company, and then, in listening to our clients, realized that we needed to expand. So that's when, paid media got introduced. So right now, it's still more SEO, probably about 70%, and then 30% paid media management. And then of course you have the natural crossover where some clients, you started with SEO and you built and grew the relationship, and now we're doing their paid media management.
Mm-hmm. And I speak to quite a few SEO people who might be SEO managers in an agency, or they might be an SEO freelancer, and they're always complaining to me, SEO is such a difficult service to sell because, prospective clients want that instant gratification that you get from running a paid advertising campaign, etc. So how has it been for you in terms of selling SEO services when you built your agency?
So I wouldn't say it's been difficult to sell, but you bring up two good points. That, and then you kind of teased what was going on in London with Reach Local and the lawsuits around misrepresentation, right? So that is substantial, and there's like an energy in the market that business owners are aware of, right? That things like that have happened. Like you have the sales rep that is selling because they need to satisfy a quota, right? Doesn't necessarily have your best interest at heart. Or you have the sales representative that is just misinformed, but they don't even know it, right? They don't know what they don't know. So in their head, they're actually proficient at SEO, but they're not. So I think that's why you maybe get some of that feedback, from other agencies, that SEO is difficult to sell. Well, one reason is these business owners have their backup, right? Their guard up. I would say 9 out of 10 times when we bring on a new client, it comes with a story, right? This is how the last agency treated us, or the reporting didn't make any sense, or it took 9 months to figure out that the product was low quality and we spent a substantial amount of money, right? So I think for us, our kind of prerequisite in that business development or sales call environment is a little bit of talk about the market, right? And trying to, create that USP and how we're different, honesty, integrity, transparency, and then product expertise. And then of course, like, just we're quick to volunteer like references, or like, let us show you, what we've done for other clients. So instead of you being in a situation where you feel like someone is selling you the world, this is what's going to happen, we'll just take you through some case studies and let you ask some questions, and I think that kind of dynamic we've created with prospective clients has put us on a level where we're establishing trust early, and has made it easier to get people onboarded.
Right. And you mentioned the business of case studies. When you were starting out and you made that jump from being in an agency to actually being on your own, how, I suppose, did you position yourself to be able to pick up new clients?
Yeah, so, and that's a good question, right? Because if I look back then compared to now, it's like two completely different playing fields, right? Like, thank God I don't have to go back and do that again. So I would say the thing that makes it the most different and what you need to do when you're first starting is you need to accept suboptimal like rates, right? Like when you look at all your percentages, right? It's like, you're gonna have to be on the phones more. You're gonna have to be out there, knocking doors, working your, like, all that, like, nothing is off the table, right? Like, work your relationships, and the numbers aren't gonna look as good, right? You're gonna have to run more sales calls to get one deal, because some of these obstacles, some of these questions that they're answering or asking are just gonna be more difficult for you to overcome, So I think I just handled it by talking more about what I've learned, at Reach Local, at this big agency, and how I've, incorporated that into this, into my new company. And also, like, just telling people, honestly, I don't have a lot of clients right now, so you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. You're going to get a lot of my time and my energy. You're getting a workhorse, right? And people like to hear that. So,
well, you reframed what might be a negative into a positive there for the prospects. So, I mean, look at the prospecting model. What did it look like back then, and what does it look like right now?
It's completely different. So back then was heavy on cold calling, right? So myself and a part-time like outbound dialer were just creating lists and making a high amount of phone calls to set appointments, a lot of local stuff, a lot of face-to-face meetings. Whereas now it's completely different. I feel like now we're practicing what we preach, right? So if you go to the Rocket Pilots blog, we produce a lot of content. We rank for very specific keywords, right? So we're not someone that's out there like, we're trying to rank for SEO services. It's like, no, but if you Google, criminal defense SEO or assisted living SEO, right? Like going after our verticals. So not only are prospects finding us that way, but we're also demonstrating our expertise through like long form content, right? So our own SEO efforts have been effective, and we also do a lot of cold email marketing. So sourcing, scrubbing lists that again are with prospective businesses that align, with our service model. And then, the emails are different. They're not really like solicitations, I would say. It's more just us like, sharing a piece of content. And then because you're catching people kind of in different stages of their buying cycle when it's email marketing. And it's normally just starts some sort of conversation, right? Some sort of engagement. That's also been effective. And then since we have an established portfolio, when it's time for growth, reaching out to the current client base and, seeing if there's any introductions that they can make. So.
Right. And when you are doing the cold calling, again, I hear this from a lot of people who are kind of moved into the freelancing world, because obviously when it's just you're really a freelancer rather than an agency.
Sure, yeah, that's fair.
How many calls were you making on a daily basis? How many people were you trying to speak to? What were you actually saying to people who picked up the phone?
I don't know how many calls a day. Maybe collectively like 50 to 60 between me and a part-time person, and then you're just trying to get what you can, you're trying to book 1 to 3 appointments a day, and then you're hoping that they stick on the calendar. You do everything you can. You send reminders and follow-ups, and then so that what were we saying? We talked a lot about that in terms of like if it was Google ads, like sometimes it was, okay, we're making sure that they're running ads, right? And then sometimes we would look at a campaign if we could tell from the search engine results page, something was poorly worded or something, that could be an angle, right? On, how we can improve the ad copy. If it was SEO, it's a lot easier to find angles, right? Because maybe they're not producing content. Maybe we looked at their link profile and we could tell they're not doing custom blogger outreach, right? So then we would kind of politely point out some of these tactics that their current agency is not executing, and how we could do it for them and what we think the results could be, right? So,
right.
But again, it's just a numbers game, right? Like if you get enough people on the phone, and it's funny, right? Because you have this plan of how the dialogue is going to go, but then someone may just have no interest in what you're saying, but ask you a different question, right? And then you just have to be agile and ready to pivot. So.
Right, and again, that obviously makes a lot of sense. People have pages and pages of scripts, and then the conversation is always going to take its own course, I suppose. Now, in terms of when you were doing your prospecting, at what point were you qualifying prospects to make sure that you didn't end up wasting too much time pitching to people with no money?
So our framework, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to paint some rosy picture, right? Because like any agency founder, we went through these hard times and the bruises and learned from them. And of course, I pitched people that were not qualified, people that did not have budgets, and I wasted my time, right? That happened. But our framework for that was at the end of the call, right? Where we would just ask a couple qualifying questions. And, the question around budget is always tricky. So instead of asking that, because it's especially someone that I just met, I don't really know, I don't want to put them on defense, I would typically say something like, we're coming up on a new year. What are your revenue targets? Right. So, and if someone is giving you like really low revenue targets, and then you start thinking about, what percentage of revenue do people allocate towards marketing? And you're like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. I'm looking for $5,000 and up on Google ads, or, $2,000-3,000 a month in SEO. And if the revenue target is really low, then that they're probably not a good fit for you.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, I suppose. Now, looking at the industries that you're serving, you mentioned that you are in the assisted living space, you're in the legal niche as well. How did you pick your niches? And, you know, I mean, because they're obviously very separate.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a criteria that went into that. So first of all, I was looking for, you know, evergreen businesses. And if you think about like the legal niche, like we work with criminal defense lawyers, personal injury lawyers all throughout the United States. And of course, COVID is going to throw like a wrench into this argument. But for the most part, these are evergreen. Like people are always going to need criminal defense attorneys when they're in trouble with the law. There are always going to be car accidents, right, where someone was a victim of negligence and they're going to need a PI attorney. Now, of course, right now there's less cars on the road, and you know that industry has been impacted, but it's still going, right? Same thing with assisted living, especially in the United States. Like we have kind of this aging population, right? If you look at our demographics and you know the baby boomers, so the services for that community needed is just monumental. It's a massive industry. So it's here to stay. And all of those businesses, including home services, they're the types of companies that they always need new clients, right? So if you're assisted living, you have turnover, you have vacancies, you need to get your occupancy rate up. The legal is more transactional, right? It's like you handle a case, you need another one. And then the home services is project-based, right? So if you're a design build company, you get a great project, go build a custom home, but guess what? You need to keep your crew busy for the next one. And I'd say a couple other things that went into it is I had worked with some of these industries at the previous agency, so my learning curve wasn't as steep, right? I already felt confident. And then, you know, just these companies typically have budget and understand digital, right? So if you're going to work with a proficient personal injury lawyer, there's a great chance that, you know, they're taking advantage of a lot of digital marketing products, or else they're just not going to compete with local firms in their area.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So kind of looking at your agency setup right now, what does it look like? You know, how many people do you have maybe doing, I suppose, prospecting? How many are account managers? And on the side, what does it look like? Yeah.
So we're a small team of 4 total. And my team is they all come from previous agencies. And I would say, like, in terms of like talent and skill level, we're more like on the higher end, you know, and they're very committed to like continuing education and tearing apart, you know, what's new in Google Ads, and you know, just, you know, making sure that they're providing thought leadership to clients, and, you know, working on our product and service model, and, you know, our project plans in Asana, you know, how can they be better, and, you know, making sure clients aren't missing out on something new. So in regards to like sales, business development, you know, that's really never changed. It's still me. So I think that's pretty common with small agencies. It's very difficult to, you know, get to that point where it's practical for your next hire to be a salesperson, as opposed to like, hey, we're getting more clients, you know, I need another SEO account manager, or I need another Google Ads account manager, right? So it will probably be like that for the foreseeable future, and we'll just kind of stick to, you know, producing content, building links, our email marketing, referrals from clients have been adequate, really, to grow the agency, and we've been growing every year. So,
and do you use any outside contractors as well for, I don't know, tasks such as link building or running analysis and reports, or do you do everything in house?
No, we do. Yeah, we I would say the main thing we use contractors for is anything like web development or design related. Right. So whether we're building a new site, or maybe just building landing pages, right, for a current client, or if there's anything that, that kind of fine line of technical SEO that also gets into, web development. Yeah. So, and then of course we produce a lot of content. So that's kind of a collaborative effort with, depending on the client, with the client to me and my team, and then the writers, right? So my team will do a lot of the topic, keyword research, creating outlines, kind of like frameworking the article for optimal SEO, and then, user engagement. And then it goes to a writer, and then, the back and forth kind of making iterations, and then back to my team to upload, optimize, publish, share on social media. So I think, I've yet to really come across an agency that has like in-house writers. It's pretty hard to make sense of that, on a financial model, just because there's so much good freelance talent out there, that, a lot of them are making a living actually writing for agencies, right? And then you keep it on the cost model is just like, when you need it. So it makes a lot of sense for us to keep that outsourced.
I mean, it'll be remiss of me not to talk slightly about SEO with you, because obviously you're running an SEO agency. In 2020, we know that SEO has changed over the past decade, beginning with the Google Panda update and all of that, wiping a lot, I suppose, out of the market. What is working well in 2020 to rank on the first page of Google?
Good question. So, it's interesting because every day there's changes to the algorithm. And if you read Search Engine Journal and all these big publications, you can always read about these little nuances and tweaks that are changing all the time. But when you really boil it down to like what's changed that is significant, and what are clients talking about, I would say ranking in maps has just become integral, right? For a lot of reasons in the verticals that we serve, because there's big data, like directories and aggregators, like you have a Place for Mom and FindLaw and things like that are taking up like valuable search engine results page real estate in almost every market, right? And clients know, like, well, how can we be creative instead of, going up against these companies? Well, they can't rank in maps, right? But we can. So I would say a couple of things that have been working very effectively, to get people to show up in Google Maps more prominently is just going above and beyond, right? Because everybody's going to tell you optimize your Google My Business, but I mean that's quite rudimentary at this point, right? So it's like, of course you should optimize your Google My Business and fill out all your data elements, but what have you done beyond that? Have you worked with your staff to really create a process for soliciting reviews, right? Get your review count up and do it routinely, right? That should be part of someone's job. And then, responding to those reviews, and where possible and appropriate, mixing in some keywords. Like, you want the reviews to be polite and professional first, but if you can, mix in some keywords, it makes a difference. And then what we've been doing, which is, kind of serves two purposes at once, is identifying local sponsorship opportunities for clients. So we're telling them like, hey, first you're going to get to do good in the community and give back. And then second, more selfishly, you're going to get some good, local links that there's a good chance that your competitors don't have, which can help, immensely in your local SEO rankings. So just, kind of those things that are, we all know that these are proven tactics, right? But we know that other SEO agencies won't do them because sometimes they're hard to scale, right? Since we're doing more custom work, we're more of a boutique agency. We can do it. We can execute, and we know it makes a difference.
Right, great. Well, we're very quickly running out of time, and these things always kind of, we always run out of time when, I suppose when we're having a good conversation. And
that's okay.
Final question for you is, for someone who's watching this and, they are starting their journey as an agency owner, what's the biggest lesson that you can share with them from your 4 years
Sure.
running your own agency?
Well, I wish I had some new insight, because I know a lot of people have said the same things. But for me, I think persistence is just key, because when you're starting out something, there's going to be naysayers, people that are negative to what you want to accomplish, and you just need to have really thick skin and let that just kind of go in one ear and out the next. And we talked about some of the obstacles and challenges that they're probably going to encounter when trying to get new business. And I don't care if you get 100 no's, that next yes is out there, and it's going to come from you being persistent. So just persist and look back at those 100 no's and make little adjustments along the way, right? Keep tweaking, because all of those no's they don't have to be negatives. They can actually be valuable insight for you to make little adjustments to your prospecting tactics and tweaks, so you can refine it, get better and stronger. And if you're committed to being persistent, then you're going to make it.
That's great advice. And I mean, I know you feel that might be slightly rudimentary, but here's the thing: for the right person who has been doing the work, this is exactly what they need to hear. On that note, Brian Hansen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.